Hi, this is part 2 of my Japanese auction unboxing video that I did a few months back now. So this was a bit of an experiment, a journey for me where I thought I would try the Japanese auction sites, see what I could find, see if there was stuff that would be of interest to me, and then just how much that would cost getting it back to the UK, over and above, I guess, buying it on UK eBay. So, was I going to find something a little bit more exceptional, a little bit more rare, something that I wouldn't typically find on UK eBay, or would I be able to find something that maybe I could find on UK eBay, but at a better price, whereas potentially on UK eBay it might be too much for me to even consider. Could I get it at a decent price that landed in the UK if it was something a bit more acceptable? So that was the experiment. Never tried it before. Obviously, you can see from the unboxing video, it did go through. I ended up probably buying more than I originally intended. I guess in for a penny, in for a pound. I was there, I was engaged, I had this process going, so I thought, why not? Up to a point, obviously, where it was just starting to get, I guess, too much money. So there's quite a few sites that allow you to do this. I ended up choosing a site called Joust.com. If you haven't seen the unboxing video, by the way, I'll put a link somewhere to that. But I ended up going for a site called Joust.com. I have no idea how they compare to the others, so this was my first foray into this. And using Joust, I ended up bidding on items on the Japanese Yahoo auction site. So it was Yahoo auctions, but it works very much like eBay. You can browse through a list of stuff for sale, and then basically you put a bid on it. Again, like eBay, for your bid you decide how much is the maximum you're going to pay, and then Joust will then bid on your behalf up to that maximum amount. So say something's like 5,000 yen. So say you want to bid a maximum 5,000 yen. It's currently maybe at 500 yen. You put 5,000 yen as your maximum bid. They'll bid initially at 500 yen, and then as people then bid on the item, they will bid against that bid up to a maximum of 5,000. You don't automatically spend 5,000 yen. Very much like eBay. To be able to bid on an item with Joust, you have to load your account with money. They won't let you bid if there's no money in your account. So again, if you're bidding on something that you want to bid up to a maximum 5,000 yen, you need to have enough money in your account to cover off that bid. So you have to preload your account with money. I did this using PayPal. So I decided how much I wanted to preload my account with. I paid for it via PayPal. PayPal handled the transaction, the conversion between pounds and yen, and then Joust also on top of that charged 40 yen for each time you loaded your account, plus an extra 3.9% of whatever you put into that account. So you go through the auctions, you find what you want, put your maximum bid, and then say Joust then bid for you on your behalf. If you don't win, you don't pay. If you do win the item, then Joust then charge 400 yen. That's their flat cost fee for you winning the auction, and then they also charge an additional 8% of the closing price as well. So now you've won the item. You've got to get that item shipped to the Joust warehouse. So when you're considering it, there are typically estimated costs of how much it's going to cost to ship in Japan. And most auctions will list sort of local Japan shipping costs. But that's, you need to bear that in mind. So you've won the auction, you've paid the money that you're going to spend on the item, you've paid the money that that Joust have charged you for bidding on your behalf. You've got to get the item shipped to their warehouse. There's also a banking fee that they charge you, which is typically 300 yen per seller per day. Obviously, if you buy from the same seller on the same day, it's only 300 yen, but typically you're not. You're going to be buying from different sellers or different days. So there's another 300 yen on top of that. Joust also did support sniper bids as well. They'll wait until the sort of closing minutes of the auction before they place a bid, to stop sort of people being aware that I guess there's interest in that item. A little bit different from eBay sniper bids if you use any third-party apps of eBay to do snipes on eBay. On the Yahoo Japanese auction site, the snipe bids are placed 6 minutes before the auction ends, if I understand it right. So it's not right until the last second, it's 6 minutes before the auction ends. Because with the Yahoo auction site, if a bid is placed with less than 5 minutes, on eBay there's a time that the auction ends, and that's a fixed time. It's going to end on this date at this time. On the Joust site, if you place a bid in the last 5 minutes, the time is I don't know how much by, but the time is extended. So the end time actually gets later and later and later if people are still bidding in the last few minutes. While ever there's interest, I guess it's a little bit like if an auction room, where you've got the going once, going twice, and if someone puts a hand up and says bids, they're not, you're moving that sort of that interest in that time forward. So they will extend the time of the auction if bidding activities in the last 5 minutes. That's a little bit different. Once the item then reaches the Joust warehouse, they will store it for you in the warehouse for up to 60 days at no additional cost. That their storage fee for 60 days is included in the cost that I've mentioned so far. And actually, this is what in the end ultimately closed it for me, is that between the first item that I purchased and the last item, I was getting close to 60 days. So I was going to, if I didn't sort of close my purchases, as it were, I was going to get charged additional fees for keeping the items in their warehouse for a longer period of time. It wasn't huge money, but I just thought, okay, that's enough now. And I think there might be a maximum of that up to 120 days, if I remember correctly, that you can store stuff in the warehouse. So you go through, you bid, all these items that you win are shipped to the Joust warehouse. I guess there's like a container or a box or a cupboard or whatever, but they group all your items together under your ID when they arrive. And then let's say at some point you say, yeah, happy with that, ship it to me, and then they provide you with an estimate of how much it's going to cost, depending on what you require, how fast you want it to get here, what sort of insurance you want, what sort of speed of delivery. So to purchase an item with Joust, there are 6 levels of cost that you need to consider. You've got the fund transfer price, which is the transferring the money loading your account costs, the bit they put on top of that. You've got the actual auction price that you pay for the auction. You've got the auction fees that Joust charge you for when you win the item, the fixed cost and the percentage on top of that. You've got the banking transaction fees. You've got local shipping fees getting it to the warehouse, and then you've got your international shipping fees to get it back to the UK. So 6 levels of cost. So it does. It is quite hard. When you're bidding on an item and you think, "Whoa, that's an amazing price I've just won that for," to then sort of realistically think, "Well, okay, how much is that extra going to cost to get it to back to the UK. So I'm going to go through some of the items that I purchased, and I'm going to show you the cost that I paid and some of the costs of those additional costs associated with that as well, to give you an idea of how much it could potentially cost you if you're going to do something similar. I haven't done it on some of the smaller items, it's just not worth it. For the import tax, it's more of an estimate because I know what I paid as a whole for my import tax. So what I've just done is, based on how much I paid on the auction price of each item, I've just portioned the import tax out based on the auction price. For shipping costs, I've done something similar again. I know how much I paid as a whole for the shipping costs. So what I've done is I've just divided it up per item, but I've put a weight based on I put a weight based on weight. So if something's like a little light CD case, for example, and then another item was a big box of consoles, I again portioned it out based on how heavy the item was, because that ultimately is what the shipping cost is based on. It's based on weight. I've also, as I go through it, I will try and comment a little bit as to what state the item was in when it arrived. Because again, on the unboxing video, I hadn't turned anything on, I hadn't really investigated anything, I just got it out of the box and unwrapped it. So just what condition it was in. A lot of things that I brought in a junk state. So the Japanese junk status is our equivalent of when you search for eBay and someone says not tested, not tested. But Japanese auctions seem to be a little bit more truthful. They might literally have not tested it, or they might have marked it in a junk state because there's something really small that's not working with it, or maybe it's just not very clean or dirty or not very presentable, so that might have caused it to be in a junk state. You're definitely going to get something a little bit more truthful on a Japanese auction site when it says junk, as opposed to UK eBay not tested, that you might as well just think, well, okay, you have tested it and it's not working. I've also going to comment a little bit on what I think the value of the item would be if I was to sell it in the UK. And all this stuff that I've brought is from my own collection, and I'm not intending to sell it. But and again, obviously, selling prices are subjective, and the selling prices that I'm going to put, they won't, that will be like the end price. It won't include any tax. It won't include any shipping costs. It won't include any repair costs. Just a rough estimate that if I was to put this on an auction site, this is how much I think I might get for it. Obviously the costs are subjective. You may agree or disagree with the cost that I've put, but again, just need an estimate out there just to show you in the ballpark as to the difference between what I paid and what I think it is worth. So you'll start off with the Nintendo Virtual Boy with 6 games, because I guess that was probably my hero piece that I brought with this. Again, something that I'd never ever seen in person, never touched, never played, never thought I was going to own one. And this was actually purchased in a junk state. I don't think the auction said as to why it was in a junk state. It was just, it potentially I could have got this and I paid a bit for it, but it might not have worked. But I priced it up based on the value of the individual parts. I looked at the fact that it got a box in some sort of condition, the fact that it got a stand, the fact that it got 6 games, the main unit was there. So, worst case, if I couldn't get this thing working, and I was really stuck with it, there was still value in the parts to sort of de-risk, I guess, the money that I was spending on it. Thankfully, when I came to test it, it did work. Without any I didn't need to do anything to it other than work out how to do it. A little bit weird in the fact that the power comes into the Virtual Boy via the controller. So that, took a little bit of head scratching initially. I was like, well, where the hell's the power go? But yeah, it comes into the controller, and obviously the controller connects to the Virtual Boy, but not only does it take the controller signals, it takes the power signals as well. But yeah, tested it. All the games worked. Again, didn't need to do anything with it. The Virtual Boy's got a lens that moves the eyepiece away from the screen backwards and forwards, depending on your eyesight. Apparently that's quite a weak area of the Virtual Boy, so I haven't messed with that at all. It's a dial on top that you can adjust. So I've left that well alone because I don't want to risk it breaking. But I've used it a couple of times, and it's working. It's working great. Yeah, fantastic piece to my collection, really. So I paid £148 auction price for it. Fees was about £13, bank charges £1.60, warehouse shipping £6.70, import tax £33.87, international shipping again portioned out was about £90. So in total that's about £223 that I paid, and I think that we're in a working state with 6 games. I think I could get between £400 and £420 for that Virtual Boy, selling it in the UK. Again, that's not money in my pocket. That would be, they said there'd be tax, there'd be shipping costs, there'd be eBay fees. And I know as a seller you don't get charged eBay fees now, but you still got to take them into account because if someone's willing to pay £420, that's what they're willing to spend. So you can't put it up for £420 because then there's the buyer protection fee that eBay put on, which I don't know how much that would be on that, but say it's another £10. That to them would be £430. So you've got to reduce your price by £10, so that with the eBay protection fee on top, it would then, they would then end up spending a total of £420. So there are eBay fees still. They've just moved how obviously how they're calculated and how they're what they're called. But yeah, £420 is what I think it would sell for. So next up is the PC Engine briefcase, as I now know what it's called. So this is a PC Engine and a CD-ROM drive with a backplane that joins them together. Now, if you've not played with a PC Engine yet, I would highly recommend it. There's some really good emulators out there, and this is a fantastic console. I've not really had much experience with it before this, but it definitely seems to be a console that was well ahead of its time. Especially if you're into shoot 'em ups, there's some really awesome shoot 'em ups available for this. So this briefcase is a PC Engine on one side and a CD-ROM on the other side, and then basically a backplane that ties them both together. This was sold as junk. The console is a standalone unit. You can take it out of the briefcase, test it, and that all worked fine. Plugging it into the backplane, I found that the backplane wasn't powering up the PC Engine. That just turned out to be a loose wire on the power connector, so that was an easy fix. So I got the backplane and the PC Engine working, but I couldn't get the CD-ROM working, so I guess that's why it was sold as junk. The CD drive didn't work on it. This was a bit of a learning curve. You need a card to boot from for the CD. And there's different versions of this card depending on what format the CD is. There's version 2 of the card's quite easy to find here, but the version 3 card's a little bit rarer, and just over sort of double the price of the version 2 cards. There are some cheap. So for the PC Engine console, I brought a cheap sort of EverDrive style card. I think it was about £15 to £20, that sort of region. And most of the ROMs on there, that works really great, but it doesn't support the CD drives. You need a proper EverDrive cart, and I think they're about 120, 150 pounds, that sort of region, for a proper one that supports the CD functionality. So I brought a version 2 card to test the CD drive. I have actually managed to find a decent price version 3 card recently as well. But I bought a version 2 card to try it out. It wouldn't work. I tried it with an audio CD. That wouldn't work. So it just wasn't even determining how many tracks there were on the CD. So I opened it up, took it apart, and it was immediately obvious it's only been into the CD drive before. When you take the top and the bottom sections apart, there's a ribbon cable that you need to unplug, and whoever had been in there before just ripped it apart, and this ribbon cable was just sheared, and that was connected to the laser. Now unfortunately it's sort of hardwired to the laser. There was no easy way to fix this ribbon cable. So looking into it, the easiest way was to replace the laser module itself, and people seemed to suggest that there were sort of Sony Discmans that had a good chance of having the right laser unit in them. So people had listed out which ones they were, managed to find one second hand, got hold of it, took the laser out of it. Now it wasn't the whole laser sledge, because that would be nice and easy if you could just lift the sledge out and put it in. You actually needed to disassemble the sledge, get the laser bit out, put it into the new sledge. So I did all that. That looked promising, put it together. It started to work, but then I hit the second problem with the CD unit, and this is a fairly common problem in that there's some small, I guess they're plastic or nylon cogs that move the sledge around, and whereas when I disassembled it initially they looked okay, as soon as I replaced this laser unit and it started doing what it needed to do, the cog broke under the strain just because of its age. So I also needed to replace the cog. Now that is fairly easy to do. It's quite well documented, quite easy to get hold of, and not very expensive. So I got hold of these cogs, replaced those, and then the CD unit actually worked. But if you are looking at these CD drives, I think I was unlucky obviously with the ribbon cable, but these cogs, if they haven't gone, odds are they're going to go soon. So got hold of this version 2 card, repaired the CD unit, and that then worked. Now the good thing about the CD unit as well, it's a little bit fussy, but you can actually burn your own CDs to it as well. There doesn't seem to be any sort of copy protection at all. So you get a hold of the CD images, dig out that CD burner that you haven't used for years, and you can start to burn some CD games for it as well. But the hardest bit is getting this version 3 card that you need for most of the games. So this item was sold as junk again, and in this case they were right, because the unit as a whole with the CD drive wasn't working. They had the problem with the power supply, but I'd say that was an easy fix. So there was an investment that was needed to find, well, it paid the ass in time to work out which Discman it was, but there was a cost associated with getting hold of that Discman and getting the part out of that. But for the actual unit itself, I paid £54. There was a £6.46 pound fee, £1.60 bank charges, £6.50 warehouse shipping, import tax £13.60, and international shipping of £19, which gives a total of about £101. And I think in a working state with the CD drive, because I said that they are prone to having issues, I think it will sell for around £200. I got another PC Engine, also sold as junk. This is the black one. But this just worked straight out of the box. Not sure why they thought they needed to sell that as junk. There was no work needed to be done at all on it. For this one I have 3D printed a breakout bracket with an AV board. Actually I'll go and get that now. yeah, so I wanted to show you this because that's what part of it is about. So that's the couple of things here. Then that's the console itself. You know, that's my hand. So you can see how small these things. I've got big hands, but you can see how small these things are. They're not very big. This is the sort of Chinese EverDrive, 15-20 pounds, as I said before. But you can get most of the HuCard. These are HuCards. Most of the HuCard based games on them. This one's got a power supply input, and it's got a single, just like the other one has, a single joystick adapter. Now that's another thing that I've brought for these is I get like a multi-tap, I guess. It's an adapter that plugs into there and breaks out. The one I've got lets you plug in 3 joysticks, I think, into that. And then you've got the interface in the back. Now on the white one, that's the one that plugs into the briefcase unit. But you can buy, just a second, see if we've got one handy. Yeah, okay. So you can buy these little AV breakout boards that go in the back of them. And they're not a huge amount of money, but they've got composite out, component out, and also Sega Mega Drive 2 output. But it's a little PCB that goes on the back, which works. But so I 3D printed. That's struggling to focus. I 3D printed this. Can I bring that close? Is it going to focus or not? No. So the board's inside here, basically. Board's inside there. Someone's trying to call me. Right, yeah. I 3D printed this. Board goes inside it, and it just puts it in a nice unit that matches fairly closely with the device itself. So that goes on there, and then you've got some good AV output on the back of it to let you connect it up to a modern TV. So for this unit I paid about £23.80, fee of £4, bank charge £1.60, warehouse shipping £2.75, import tax £6, international shipping £19. That gives a total of around £57, and I think in that condition it would sell for around £100. So next thing is this Super Famicom that was boxed and came with 2 controllers. This was sold as junk, but fully working. I got quite a few Super Famicoms in the container that I brought. Most of them just needed the connectors cleaning, the game cartridge connectors to get working. The console's dirty and grey, but again, most of the Super Famicoms, a bit of retro brighting, a bit of cleaning, and they all came out okay. Some of the Super Famicoms I have sold. A lot of the stuff that I've talked about so far I've kept, but the Super Famicoms, there was just too many. I didn't need that many Super Famicoms. So I've kept some of the nice ones, kept some of the box ones, but sold some of the others. Most of them were dirty. But after a clean and some retro brighting, they've come up quite nice. So here's an example of one of the eBay listings that I did, so you can see how well they cleaned up basically. But this box one, I paid £5.30, £2.54 fee, £1.60 bank charge. Warehouse shipping was about £8.68. Import tax £1.33, international shipping £19, giving a total of around £38.50, and I think it would sell in a box condition like this for 2 controllers about £70 on eBay. Okay, where to next? Right, this bundle of stuff. In here there was quite a few consoles. There was a Wii U and a Wii U gamepad, 2 Super Famicoms, 2 Famicoms, 2 Super Game Boy adapters and some games. So this is what the auction picture looked like. All sold as junk. Tested all the games, they all seemed to work fine. Some needed a clean, but nothing more than that to get them working. The Wii U controller needed a new battery, but other than that, that worked. And then the console also worked as well once that battery was replaced. I think, so one of the Super Famicoms that I got was smashed. I think it was in this lot where the case was smashed. I've seen it before with Super Famicoms as they get old. The plastic does go very, very brittle. But it was in a working state. And the rest needed various minor repairs and cleaning. I've lost track of the Super Famicoms and the Famicons and which bundles they came out of, unless obviously they were boxed. But with the Famicons, I was able to get all the Famicons working except for one. Again, most needed cartridge port cleaning. A couple needed some new caps. I think one of them had the power regulator that had failed. But other than that, so basic repairs. There was one that wasn't working, and in the end, due to the cases not being great on some of them, I didn't bother taking that last one any further. I've just kept it as all spares and repairs. It just wasn't worth spending the time and getting deep into it to get it replaced when I already had, I lost track, maybe 6 or 7 in this shipment in a working state. So yeah, quite pleased with this bundle, because most of the stuff here was in a good working state, or needed very little doing to it. Super Game Boy cartridges, yeah, I still have no idea why you'd want to play Game Boy games on a big TV, but they worked okay. So I think I paid about £14.80 for the auction, £3.30 for fees, £1.60 bank charge, £11.17 for shipping. There was a lot of items, a lot of weight, so that was quite expensive to get it shipped even locally. £3.72 import tax, £19 international shipping. So in total, about £53.50 I think I paid. And I think I could sell all this in total on eBay for about £300. I think they'd go for. So next was the PSX. Probably not a great buy really, but it did come with a remote, and I guess that was the important thing, because the PSX that I had already, it didn't have a remote with it, so that was working, so that's good. This thing wasn't even screwed together, so this was sold as junk, and this was actually in true sense junk. Wasn't screwed together. Someone had obviously been inside it. Screws were missing. It didn't boot, and I didn't bother spending any time on it. It was purchased for the remote. It was purchased as spares for the one that I've got. So that's it. That's all I did, is just check it. Does it boot? Does the remote work? And it's gone to one side to be spares for the one that I have already. So I paid £47 for this in total, and in its non-working state, I think it would sell for about £60 to £80 on eBay. So this is a box Famicom. This one was incredibly cheap to buy, so I actually paid 70p for the auction price for this, which is incredible. A box Famicom for 70p. It'd be amazing if obviously I landed it for 70p, but I didn't. So auction price was 70p. The fee was £2.20. Bank charge was £1.60. Warehouse shipping. This was a big one. I don't know how they justified this compared to the other stuff, but I can't remember if it was actually listed or they just decided to up the shipping costs because they were a bit miffed that someone had bought it for 70p. But warehouse shipping was £7.80, import tax 17p, international shipping £19, So in total I paid £32 for this box Famicom, and I think it will sell for about £70. Next up is Sega Mark III. So this is the console that was remodelled to become the Sega Master System as we know it. I already had Sega Outrun for this console, the cartridge Sega Outrun for this console, and I also have a first generation, which is the SG-1000 of this console as well. It was sold as working, and it came with a cartridge version of Wonder Boy as well. It did have a problem powering on, but that turned out to be just a problem with the power switch. Again, fairly common with these Sega Mark IIIs. That just needed cleaning, and it's not quite leaf sprung, but it's just bits of metal that as you move the switch, these bits of metal sort of bend into place and touch each other. But if it just needed a bit of bending and cleaning where the contacts were, and it worked. I've also bought a replacement, not original switch, but a replacement switch which works more in a traditional manner. So if the thing starts playing up again in the future, I might consider switching the switch out for that. But power switch just needed a bit of work. So not a highly skilled repair, and not a lot of time. Zero cost, not much time to get into a working state. The console itself is in lovely condition. One that I had been looking at for some time and thinking about getting, but just wasn't prepared to pay the UK prices for it. So I paid £58 for the auction, £2.20 for the fee, bank charges £1.60, warehouse shipping £8.74, import tax £14.60, international shipping £19, so that's a total of £104. And I think in the state with the game, with the Wonder Boy game, it would sell on eBay for about £200. So this next bundle had a lot of Famicons and Super Famicons, but also, and the reason for calling this out is and talk about the disc system as well. So this also included a couple of disc systems as well, and one disc adapter. So interestingly, the Famicom did release games as well as on cartridge, which was the norm. They did release it on disc as well. And with this disc, so the disc adapter goes into the cartridge slot. There's a lead that attaches to the disc drive. The disc drive can be powered up separately with separate power or by batteries, and you can load games from floppy disk. There is also a floppy drive emulator for the Famicom as well. Now that's not too expensive, and certainly you can pick that up for a reasonable price. All you need is the floppy disk adapter. They're fairly easy to get hold of, and again, they're not too much money. You get the floppy disk adapter, and then the floppy drive emulator, and you can play all the floppy drive games. The floppy disks themselves, I got one as part of this bundle to test these floppy disk drives. They are fairly expensive to collect, so the floppy drive emulator is definitely something worth looking at. In total, across all of the lots that I got, I ended up with 3 drives, and every drive had exactly the same problem, and that's the drive belt had perished. So you put the disc in, and it just didn't do anything because there was nothing driving. The motor was spinning, but it wasn't spinning the actual floppy disk itself. So loads of videos on eBay, loads of videos on YouTube about how to replace those drive belts. It's a bit of a faff because you have to disassemble not only the case but the drive mechanism itself to be able to get the remnants of the drive belt out, clean it all up, put a new drive belt in. But the drive belts aren't too expensive to find, and it's fairly straightforward to do. So all 3 had the same problem. I've repaired 2, and the third one I've just left as is for now, and that would just be a spares machine as and when. So for this lot, I paid £19.60. Fee was £3.68, bank charges £1.60, warehouse shipping £10.32, Import tax £4.91, international shipping £19. So in total I paid £59 for this lot, and I think all in a working state they would sell for just under £500 in total. So that's probably all I want to go through with regards to the items that I want to call out. So I guess need to sum it up really. Let's have a look then at the total prices. That's probably a good place to start. I paid in total £458 of auction prices, £96 in auction fees, £44.47 in bank charges, £121 to get the item shipped to the warehouse, £115 of import tax, £447. So pretty much exactly what I paid for each of the items to get it shipped to the UK. So a total price of around £1,281 for all of those items. If you believe my estimation of how much I think they could sell for, but again, you don't just think, wow, yeah, this is like a gold mine. This doesn't include any of the fixing costs, doesn't include any of my time to repair them. It doesn't include any of the auction fees, any of the tax, anything like any of the shipping to get it to whoever's going to buy it. So there's no cost at all. But I think you could sell them for about £2,500. So double what I paid to land it, and then work out what you think is the profit value in that. But so it wasn't worth it for me. I'd have been disappointed if I'd have spent more than what I could have spent buying it in the UK. Obviously, what would have been the point if I was just buying the same items for more money. But it does look like I have been able to buy things cheaper by importing them from Japan, so that's good. The experience I had with Joust, a learning curve initially, working out the process and all the different fees that were going to be involved. Got to be patient for the shipping unless you pay for it. I paid for the slowest shipping over to the UK. I think it took about just over 2 months to get here. But I didn't have any issues at all. I had no issues with the sellers, no issues with Joust, no issues with the shipping. Maybe I was lucky, but no issues in the process. You just got to be patient. This stuff doesn't arrive quickly, but it worked. I've got out of this. I've got a couple of items. I paid a lot of money, a lot more than probably what I had in my head when I started the experiment. But I got a couple of hero items out of it that I probably would never ever own, or ever push the button on the prices that they are in the UK. So I'm very happy with that. I've made a little bit of money back, mainly on the sort of excess of Famicoms and Super Famicoms. So I've been able to chip away at some of those costs that I spent on it. But I say I've got some nice. The PC engines, so I'd never played on the PC engine before. That's really opened my eyes up to those. That's been a really nice experience in getting those consoles, owning them, and learning a bit more about those. And I've enjoyed the experience really. So I guess the takeaway is it does work. It is possible. There are a lot of costs, extra costs that hopefully now you understand a bit more. If you've got the money, then and you're into obviously Japan. Maybe that's worth talking about as well. Is obviously the Japanese consoles, they play Japanese format games, so it is a little bit of a minefield. You need to work out, is it going to be if I buy a Japanese console, am I going to be able to plug a UK game into it? Do I have to buy Japanese games? Do I have to convert them? Do I need like a multi-region BIOS in them? Now power, interestingly, was the least complicated element. because although Japan's obviously 110 volts, all of the consoles that I purchased, they all came with external step-down transformers. Japanese mains input and spitting out typically 9 volt center negative, but all DC into the console. So very, very easy just to replace it with a UK equivalent transformer. No sort of specialised step-down converters needed, no specialised power supplies. Just very, very easy. And then the other element is the TV signal. So again, not so bad. All the consoles worked fairly well, except for the Famicons. The Famicons were a pain. I did not have a TV that liked taking the Famicom RF signal and would display it cleanly. I mean, it displayed it, but not cleanly with the sound as well. I could not get a clean video and audio out of the Famicons. So I have kept one Famicom in the original state, but the 2 other Famicons that I've kept for myself, I converted those with an AV mod on them. And I've also sold some of the Famicons that I've sold as well. I've sold those with AV mods as well, because that's and I've done it in a sympathetic way. I don't actually have it to hand, but hopefully I'll pick up. Hopefully I'll be able to show you the picture of the auction. What I did is I ended up drilling out the RF connector. So if you look at there's loads of different ways that people have done the Famicons. But what I did is I ended up drilling out the RF connector and putting in an AV jack instead. So if you look at it and don't look too closely, there's no holes that have been drilled, extra holes that have been drilled into the case. It does look like an original Famicom. It's just that you can now get composite video out of it as well. So, but yeah, do bear in mind they are Japanese consoles. There may be some hoops to jump through to get the games or the video signals working. But ultimately for me, except for the Famicons, that wasn't too much of a headache. So hopefully this has been of interest. If you are thinking about doing this, hopefully there's a bit of knowledge there now so you can do it in a more considered fashion. But thank you for listening. Until the next one.